Hello, good afternoon, everyone. A warm welcome to one and all who has come here. So, we will start with our webinar session. To start with, we will first talk about little bit about Embrace. So, it's an open community for mothers by mothers, the platform for parents having a children with special needs. We are a team of various professionals as volunteers, initiated by Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Asaitambi and supported by Harchan Foundation Trust. And as a Embrace, the services we offer is free counseling sessions to parents of special need children to manage their emotional well-being, and free webinars is provided with information and knowledge required in their journey for parenting the children with special needs. So this is about our Embrace, and I would like to introduce today's speakers. A warm welcome to Janaki ma'am, Janaki Narayan ma'am, and Jayanti Surya Narayanan. So Mrs. Janaki Narayan is a parent of special need child. She has done her B.Ed in special education. She has been a part of special education field for about 17 years. Her assignments in Brindavan Education Trust have been creating awareness about learning disabilities, establishing the resource rooms in mainstream schools wherever possible, promoting inclusiveness in education, faculty for parent course and teachers training course, and teaching students in the Senior Center of Brindavan Education Trust for NIOS program. Her course in special education has helped her understand the uphill task of the special education teachers also. She empathizes with her students and gently guides them towards achieving their full potential. Mrs. Janaki loves spending time with family, traveling, listening to classical music, watching plays, and reading. A warm welcome to you, Janaki ma'am. And this is our second speaker of the day, other speaker of the day. So this is Jayanti Surya Narayanan, a software developer by profession. Mrs. Jayanti Surya entered the world of special education needs because of her daughter. She is a mother of special need child. Her relentless pursuit to understand this domain paved way in getting trained as a special educator. She has done diploma course in specific learning disability and inclusive education from KPMRC in 2012. She has also completed masters in psychology. Mrs. Jayanti joined Brindavan Education Trust in year 2012. She supported the student at senior center in subjects like home science, data entry operations, English from NIOS and Karnataka State Board curriculum till 2018. She has been the coordinator of the training programs in Brindavan since 2019. She is certified art-based therapy practitioner. Ms. Jayanti also takes music therapy session for individuals with intellectual challenges. A warm welcome to you, ma'am. Please, you can take over that, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. So, Jayanti, maybe we can start screen sharing now.
A few seconds, Janaki.
Yes. So thank you for that nice introduction. Thank you, Embrace team, for giving us this opportunity, and thanks to all the participants today for being here. Today's topic is lesson adaptation. It's a very important topic because our classrooms have diverse learners and our students may be functioning at various levels. So today, Jayanti and me will be taking you through in the time we have, which is about an hour from now. I will be taking the first half hour, and then Jayanti will be taking over the sample lesson adaptation. I will allow Jayanti to take over this now and explain something about Brindavan, and then we'll talk about the lesson adaptation.
Yeah. Thank you, Janaki. Before we start into the session, just intro about our institution. Brindavan Education Trust is the premier institution in Bangalore that supports students with specific learning difficulties. It was set up into 1993 by three visionaries, Dr. Gayatri Krishna, Kusma Narayanamurthy, and late Rupa Shivkumar. And we have three full-time centers now at present working. We have a junior center at Jayanagar that supports the skill development of children in the age group of 8 to 14 years of age. And we have a senior center that is functioning at the JP Nagar at JP Nagar that helps children in school completion. So we help them in clearing their 10th and 12th standard through NIOS curriculum. And a very valuable and a proud addition to Brindavan Group is our pre-vocational training center that started in the year 2019. So the pre-vocational training program will help prepare children for vocational training, and it gives a holistic skill development program for children in the age group of 14 to 18 years. This is very, very important. We actually, the pre-vocational program was developed to support children for whom school completion was a big challenge. So this pre-vocational program is mainly includes functional skill development. So we do a lot of data entry work and develop data entry skills, functional English, functional math, and other skill development happens there. And admission for our pre-vocational program happens throughout the year. And as of now, as due to this COVID situation, just like all other centers, our pre-vocational center is also offering online coaching sessions. Okay, and in addition to these three full-time centers, we have our after-school remedial programs. We have two centers. One is at Jayanagar, another one is at Sheshadripuram. And we also offer training programs for teachers and parents. For teachers, we offer two training programs. One is the diploma course in SLD, and the other one is for the pre-inclusive inclusive education course for pre-primary and Montessori teachers. We offer a 3-month certificate course for parents to cater to help them develop skills to support the specific difficulties that they face with their children. Brindavan has been conducting annual seminars every year to commemorate the anniversary of late Miss Rupa Shivkumar. And we also have our parent support group, which is a organization, which is a non-voluntary organization kind of a group where parents from schools across Bangalore, including parents of children studying at Brindavan, come together and support each other and share information regarding education in other areas. And Brindavan also offers assessments, psychoeducational assessments by professionals. And right now we will be starting doing assessments online also, because we see that doing personalized assessment is becoming a challenge, and many children do, but the flow of the learning has to happen. So we are also offering online assessments. Okay, so for further details about Brindavan, you can contact us at these email ID. You can mail to us or call us up. Indu, if in case you need these details, please contact Indu after the session. She will be able to share the details. Okay. Yeah, before we start, I would like to give a small introduction about the NIOS curriculum. I think my colleagues Pushpa and Janki have already given a detailed account of what NIOS is and how we at Brindavan use NIOS. So though NIOS, the launch of NIOS program was intended to reach out to children far at remote villages and small towns, we see that the plan, the structure, and the curriculum is more suitable for our children with specific learning difficulties. The highlights of this program are the child can appear for only 1 or 2 subjects at a time. So that gives the child ample time to prepare well and appear for the exam confidently. So this results in reduced academic stress, and the child is more confident and more ready to appear for the exams. And NIOS offers 1 consolidated mark sheets once the child clears all the 5 subjects. Again, though NIOS has an option of registering under the special category, but once the child clears all the 5 subjects, the consolidated mark sheets is the same for all students, whether they are registered in the general category or the special category. And of course, NIOS also offers accommodations like extra time of about 20 minutes per hour and of an option of having a scribe for children with severe learning difficulties, and option of readers, having reader or prompters for students with severe reading difficulties. Okay, so there are many other accommodations. I think you can visit the website to get an update on the accommodations which are offered by NIOS. Yeah, over to Janki now for the rest of the session.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jayanti. The objectives of the session today, we'll be first seeing what is adaptation, accommodation, and modification. Why do we need lesson adaptation? We will discuss how we choose content, some strategies for adaptation. In the time we have, we will try to give you as many as possible, and a sample lesson adaptation, which will be done by Jayanti. Can we go to the next slide, please? What is adaptation itself? It is the process of change by which an organism or a species becomes suited to its environment. And we have to keep this in mind when we are dealing with this class of diverse learners with different learning styles. Can we go to the next slide, please? So, adaptation. See, some adaptations are quite simple. You just have to put the student in front of the class, or move the student away from the window, or remove the clutter on his desk. Other modifications may be presenting material in a simpler form and also evaluating the students differently. Let us go through these terms again. Adaptation means you allow the learner the equal opportunity to demonstrate that he has learned the concepts you are teaching and you have achieved the desired learning outcome. In adaptation, there are two categories. One is called accommodation and the other is called modification. In accommodation, what do? You can give the general education curriculum, which you give all children, but the option you give is they can maybe give the answers orally. The instructional material remains the same. Therefore, what you are allowing the students to work around their disability. Another form of adaptation is called modification, where there's a change in what is being taught and what is being expected also. You might make an assignment simpler. Next, please. So what is lesson adaptation? You present the lesson or a concept to the child so that the comprehending abilities improve. There is a improved exam performance, but most of all, he develops his skills, the functional skills also. Next slide, please. Why do we need this at all? Because it is a major tool for differential teaching. You want every child in the class to participate. When you adapt a lesson to the requirements of the child, learning becomes lively and learning becomes interesting. We can reinforce the basic academic skills like oral language, reading, spelling, writing, etc. In adaptation, we also do note making, summarizing, paraphrasing, and I believe these skills are very, very useful in their working life also. One more element we add when we adapt lessons is a multi-sensorial approach. That means we are using several modalities at the same time: the visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and the tactile. When we use, and we did speak in length about it, I think in the last webinar we had with Embrace, we have seen that this multi-sensory approach enhances the memory and the ability to learn. Next slide, please. Here's the visual how multi-sensory learning takes place. You see the visual mode where they see something like graphs, like pictures. So their learning happens more visually. Auditory style, where they hear, and of course the kinesthetic and the tactile. We'll be going through this in detail again, where they touch and the large body movements. There's another, we spoke a lot about these teaching strategies earlier. So I will just mention one here. It is called RAP, where you restate the question in a complete sentence. You ask the child to answer and explain. You ask the child to provide facts as a proof to support that answer. So what are we trying to do here? We are trying to acknowledge each child as having unique needs. And we need to select and we need to adapt materials to varying student needs. Next slide, please. So what are the points to be kept in mind before adapting a lesson? What are we trying to change? We might change the content. That is, what is being taught from the textbook. We might change the process. How is it being taught? Through a lesson plan, through charts. We might change the product. How the student demonstrates that learning. Oral tests maybe, through PPTs, through multiple choice questions, through short answers, essays. And what to teach? Keeping in mind the strengths and limitations of the child. How do we teach? And what is the desired outcome? And always keep in mind that the functional skill development takes top priority always, in addition to the academic part, of course. Next slide, please. Adapting the teaching strategies, we do it in 3 steps. Before the lesson, what do? We pre-teach the difficult vocabulary, which is the keywords. And then we will explain the objective of the lesson. I think Jayanti will come back with this KWL chart later. During the lesson, we will use multisensory methods. We will use flashcards, though we have discussed the strategy in the earlier webinar. I'm going to just demo this briefly. We are using a flashcard using the look, cover, write and check method. So you could show the flashcard, ask the child to look at the card, say the word, cover it, ask the child to write it down, and when we say check, we mean that the child is monitoring on his own. It's a very important skill where the child learns to evaluate his own work rather than the teacher being the monitor all the time. This is one strategy where you help the child check whether he has written it correctly, and if not, he can revisit the word and do the entire process again. You can provide visuals during this lesson. You can let the student close his eyes and use visual imagery. You could say things like, you're going to a food stall and something piping hot is there. It smells really good. What do you think it is? It is hot jalebis frying. Something, when you use words, the child should be able to conjure up that vision. That is a very important skill. Like I said in the RAP method, make the student repeat the directions so that you know he has understood what you're trying to convey. And always give short verbal instructions, because we do not want to give the child a cognitive overload. Keep the instructions short and ask them to repeat instructions. And after the lesson, assess using different modalities. It doesn't always have to be pen and paper. You can check different ways how the child has understood the lesson you have taught. Next slide, please. So what are we trying to do here? We see this pyramid and we are going to discuss how to choose the content in any lesson. Even though today's sample might be from NIOS, I believe it will apply to any kind of board. First of all, we will take the core concepts. The core concepts is all the concepts, what the child should absolutely know about that particular concept. How can we do this? Maybe you go through the textbook, pick the, the subheadings which are in bold. Or another way is to choose a topic sentence. Go through the paragraphs. What is the main sentence there which conveys what is the, the details in the paragraph? One sentence can convey it all. So pick up the topic sentence and make a bunch of these topic sentences. Those will become the core concepts, what the child absolutely must know about that lesson or concept. When the child is comfortable with that, you go to additional concepts. 1 or 2 lines about each core concept, which are also in the text. So you're adding few details. So most of that is, the concept is known now. And then after that, some additional concepts. You will also add some more details when the child is much more comfortable. So this is the process. You extend the learning of the child. So what are we doing here is, the students are revisiting each topic. I think we'll just wait for someone to mute. Somebody needs to mute.
Can I request all the participants to mute themselves, please? Thank you.
So in this, we are trying, the students will revisit each topic several times and the levels of complexity are getting increased as the student makes progress in his learning. Next slide, please. How to adapt the lesson? You read the lesson and mark the subheadings. You select the core concepts which the child has to learn. You select the additional concepts and other details of the concepts, if the child can learn it. We have put that in bold so that the teachers make a note of that. List out the learning outcomes you want at the end of the lesson, because Jayanti will be explaining the KWL chart, that always the child goes in with the, with an idea of what he is going to learn, and always link it to something he already knows. That's how the knowledge gets built up. Simplify the language used, retaining the key words in that lesson. Do not change the key words. You can only simplify the other parts of the text. Present the content using graphic organizers. We will be doing a demo of that. And of course, your evaluation, each teacher decides how a child can best show that they have learned. Next slide, please. What are the precautions we need? We cannot over dilute the concept. When we say simplify, we are not saying dilute the content. We are just saying make it more accessible for the child to learn easily. Do not miss out on any important concept. So it's a very fine balance where you develop the skill, but you also meet the curriculum and academic requirements. Next slide, please. I think the evaluations, have we missed a slide here? No. Okay. There is a slide on, yeah, we can go to the next one then. Yeah. There is of course, the concept of evaluation. We'll be touching on that a little later. I was thinking we should connect all our VAKT activities with multiple intelligences also. We can have a look at this person, Howard Gardner. He was a Harvard psychologist, and he said there are 8 intelligences. In fact, he even said that there's a possibility of a ninth, which is the existential intelligence. As teachers, I feel that many of us can integrate Gardner's philosophy into our classrooms. And Gardner himself said that the biggest mistake of past centuries in teaching has been to treat all students as if they were variants of the same individual, and thus to feel justified in teaching them all the same subjects the same way. I think teachers have to be creative. You have to help students discover their learning style, and you have to help students discover the areas they are strongest in. Can we go to the next slide, please? Actually, we can use this theory in class. I feel it resonates with me. I'm sure it resonates with many educators. Actually, we last time at the webinar, we did show you an example where a student was struggling with an English lesson till we gave an option of creating a graphic story, and he was able to demonstrate his learning. And we did tell you that sometimes our children like to see sliced apples in order to understand fractions. So I just thought we will try to integrate it with Jayanti's example today on food and nutrition, the food groups. How can we do this with Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences? Let us go to that verbal linguistic. Oral and written language is their strength. See, you would, as educators, know which child which is the strength of each of your children. One of the ways you can evaluate this is the verbal linguistic, where they're strong in oral and written language. For a food example, they can write a newspaper advertisement for a food product. They can talk like a salesman explaining the nutritional value of a product. Let us go to the math logic or the logical mathematical aspect. These children are good with abstract problems and calculations. They can be asked to check 2 types of breakfast cereals and compare the nutritional content. Suppose we go to the music and rhythm part of it, where children are very, very comfortable with aspects of sound. I thought it would be interesting if they can create a jingle about food and nutrition and incorporate it into our advertisement here. Let us go to this here below, the visual spatial part of it. They are very good at understanding maps and graphic information. They can be asked to create a jigsaw of a food product. The naturalistic aspect, they are very happy going outside, looking at spiders making webs for a long time. They can identify several plants and animals. They can talk about the weather. So they can go around the neighborhood and find the names of plants and trees which supply our food. And the bodily kinesthetic, these are the athletes, the dancers, who like to, work with their hands. They can prepare a healthy salad. They like the large cross-body movements. Now we go to the 2 other skills, the interpersonal and the intrapersonal. We'll go to the interpersonal first. These children get along very well in groups. They can discuss the food groups they enjoy and the nutritional value. And here, the last one is the intrapersonal. The intrapersonal really means that they can recognize their intentions and their motivations within themselves. They can keep the record of their food for a week and check if it meets the requirements of a balanced diet. I just have to explain one little bit here. So we have the multiple intelligences here, and we have the learning styles, which is VAKT. So the learning style is how you approach your material or your tasks. And the multiple intelligences refers to the different intellectual abilities. So just as a clarification, you might like learning new languages but you may not prefer the lecture method. Okay, it's just that little differentiation we have to keep in mind, that learning styles is VAKT and Howard Gardner's is the different types of intelligences. With that, I'm going to ask my colleague Jayanti to take over and do the rest of the session, which is really the important part because she's going to do the real demo of a lesson adaptation. Thanks.
Thank you, Janki. Okay, now that we've heard about the basic guidelines of what lesson adaptation is, how to do lesson adaptation, and what are the points to be kept in mind while adapting a lesson. And for the sake of today's session, I have taken an NIOS chapter from the home science subject, the third chapter from home science subject. I hope this is visible to everybody. So the chapter on food groups, okay. So as you can see, you've got printed text. So this is the chapter that covers about food groups, balanced diet, food pyramid. Okay, so there are about 20 to 25 pages of printed material in this. So today I will be telling you how I adapted this text and how did we work out with our students. Okay, the moment we say adapted text or lesson adaptation, many of you might feel that is it just a summary or a shortened version of a lesson? Well, yes, it is definitely. One part of the lesson adaptation is definitely the shortened version of the lesson, but lesson adaptation on its own is a very, very comprehensive entity. So in Vrindavan, we call each adapted lesson or each lesson adaptation done as a toolkit. So we prepare kits of lesson adaptation, and each kit consists of many entities that we use throughout our learning or teaching process. So the main part of the lesson adaptation toolkit is, the first one is a teaching plan that the teacher makes when with respect to the class she is going to take. So the teaching plan will include details about the students, or if she is doing a one-on-one with a student, details about the student, like the strengths, limitations, and the learning style of the student. And of course, the most important, the core, the adapted version of the lesson. And in addition to that, we also have laminated sheets of all the relevant graphic organizers. I will explain in short, actually we will not dwell too much in detail as to what the graphic organizers are and how they help in lesson adaptation. And we also add images of all the information given in that lesson wherever possible. Okay, and we prepare flashcards and teaching aids to take the concept to the child. And we, of course, as Janaki rightly pointed out, that the process of lesson adaptation not only caters to the improving the students' performance in academics and in exams, but also improves the skills. So we also make worksheets for developing reading, comprehension, spelling, and written expression skills. Of course, the oral language skills is developed while having the discussions during the sessions when we are teaching them. Okay, so now to graphic organizers. Graphic organizers, so as the name suggests, this is something that is visual. This is something that comes as an image. And research has pointed that human being is able to retain information that is given as visuals. Even now, many of us remember the visuals, the places we visited when we were young, or the movies that we saw when we were young, or the, interesting storybooks that we saw when we were maybe, in primary school and all that, or even very interesting people that we meet. Why is that? Because the information of all these is stored in our brain as images. But unfortunately, in the academic stream, we see that as the child progresses from the primary to middle school to secondary to higher secondary, the amount of information that is conveyed to images or pictures is reduced, and the printed text quantity gets more and more. So this definitely is a big hindrance for children with specific learning difficulties. So we use something called as a graphic organizer. So as the slide says, graphic organizer is a tool for collecting and presenting information visually. Graphic organizers help students to organize ideas, see relationships between them, and it also helps them in understanding the concept and recall them whenever required, either orally or in the written form during the exams. graphic organizers improve the comprehending abilities of the student, and they are able to understand the concepts well. And there are many types of graphic organizers, and it has been widely used not only in the field of education, but it is also widely used in corporate world also. Some of the graphic organizers that are widely used are story maps, T-charts, spider maps, Venn diagrams, grid or table, network tree, etc. And as teachers, as educators, we can choose the type of graphic organizer depending on the information that we are trying to put it in. Okay. Yeah. Now, when we talk about graphic organizers, we have different types of graphic organizer for narrative text and different for expository text. So in narrative text, as the slide says, it informs about a series of events. So it is basically stories or biographies or memos and all that. So for lessons, for English lessons in English subject, the lessons that deal with such information, we use a graphic organizer called as the story map. So a story map is a graphic organizer that basically compartmentalizes the information given in the story. So you can see that there is a small section that says what are the name of the story, the title of the story, the author, the main characters, the supporting characters, what is the setting, where is the story happening, and how does the story begin, how does it progress, and how does it finish. Okay, so this is one of the graphic organizers that is widely used when we want to teach a lesson or a story to the student. So I would like to show you a sample images of the story map that one of our students made for the story Kondiba, a Hero. So as you can see, we have the student wanted to make the story map on his own, and he has added these details. And once the students are comfortable with the basic storyline, the basic information of the story, we add details at every stage so that the entire lesson is slowly covered. Okay, and the other image that you're seeing is a visual representation of the same story by another student. Surprisingly, when we asked him to narrate the story, he very effectively used this image and he was narrating the story perfectly to us. Yeah. Now we come to the expository text. And expository text is something that conveys facts in a way that is educational and purposeful. So basically all your lessons from the core subjects like social science, general science fall into this category. Now, as I told you, for this session, I have taken the chapter of food groups from the NIOS 10th grade secondary level home science textbook. And this is a chapter that comes after the first chapter, that is the food and nutrition. So as I told you that lesson adaptation is a highly planned and is a highly structured process. So when we are adapting the lesson or when we plan to teach the lesson to a child, we prepare something called as a KWL chart. So a KWL chart is nothing but a table or a grid with 3 columns. The first, and this chart has to be filled by the student. Okay, so in the first column, the student expresses what he already knows about that particular chapter or about that particular concept that he is planning to learn from us. Okay, and the second column gives in which he tells that what is he expecting to learn from this new chapter. Many times we have seen that our children are at loss of words or they don't know what to expect from the new lesson. So in that case, what we do is we keep the learning objectives or learning outcomes of the lesson ready with us, and we discuss with the student and tell him that these are the ones that you will be learning. And also sometimes the child might have some misinformation about what he will be learning. So we also tell him what he will not be learning. Okay. And the third column, of course, tells that what I have learned. So this column will be filled by the student. Once we finish the lesson and finish the evaluation and assessments, so he will come back and finish and fill this KWL chart is kind of gives a closure for him and a sense of completion for the student. The student feels quite satisfaction about, so I started from what I knew and I'm learning something new. And now this is what I learned. And I can confidently say that I have learned these concepts. So a KWL chart is a very important entity and a very important graphic organizer we use. Okay. Now that Janki ma'am said that, learning process becomes very interesting and it becomes, pleasant. And it is very imperative for teachers to ensure that the learning happens in a pleasant way. And I'm sure many of you must have heard from neurologists say that a happy child learns best. So it is very important to take away the stress or the pressure or, the tension or the anxiety that the child usually has when he is sitting with a teacher and trying to learn a new concept. So in order to ease away his tension, we always start from a point of known. So we start from something that the child already knows. So as I told you, this chapter is a successor to another chapter on food and nutrients. So I usually do few activities that will refresh his prior knowledge about food, about nutrients, what are the various nutrients that he studied, what are the classification of nutrients that he studied, the sources of all the nutrients, and the deficiency diseases that would be caused due to the lack of these nutrients, and all the other details that were covered. So once a child is now connected with the prior knowledge, now we take him slowly into the new concepts in the lesson. Okay. As we told, we make a list of keywords ready before we start to sit with the child, and we don't list out more than 15 or 16 keywords per lesson, because it will be too overwhelming for children who have severe reading and spelling difficulties. Okay, so even among this 15 or 16 keywords, we only introduce 5 or 6 keywords at a time, which are used in the topic that I'm trying to teach the child in that particular session. Okay, so that is why we have color coded this keywords, and we make flashcards of these keywords and keep them ready. And we do a couple of reading activities, spelling activities, so that the child is comfortable looking at the keywords, reading them, spelling them, and also understands the meaning, so that he is able to connect with the context where these keywords will be used. Okay, so this is one activity that we do. We ask the child to write the keywords on the blackboard. Many of our kids they know this is one of their favorite activities, and we also encourage them to do this, primarily because the posture of standing up, holding the chalk and writing on the board is a wonderful tactile and kinesthetic way of reinforcing the spelling and reading and the configuration, the spelling and the configuration of the keywords. Of course, we have seen a few students who are sensitive to the sound and maybe the texture of the chalk and and all that. So in those cases, we ask the student to do the same activity on a whiteboard, and we give them markers to do so. Okay, now once we are done the prior information and the keyword activities are done, now we actually get into the lesson. So the first part of the lesson deals with classification of food. So in the lesson, the classification is done in two ways. The first classification is done based on the functions of the food items. So I have used a network tree diagram graphic organizer here to represent the information. As you can see, I have color coded the 3 categories. One is energy giving, body building, and protective food. Okay, and I have also put in some relevant images there. Of course, these images and pictures might seem a little silly and funny for the students. Yes, they have been, but then these little instances of humor and silliness is what will make them recall and comprehend the information, is it not? So we tend to add little bits and pieces of humor here and there, so that the session goes at ease. So and this graphic organizer also gives information about the category of food and the nutrients that each category gives, and also the sources of the food items that provide this nutrients. Okay, so once we do this graphic organizer, we get into an activity where we make this graphic organizer on the board, and we ask the child to fill in the words. And again, I would like to reiterate here, all the words that the child is writing, he has been exposed and given an opportunity to read, write, spell quite a number of times, so that he's comfortable doing this. Okay, so the child will write the keywords on the graphic organizer, followed by he will do it independently. He will try to do it independently or with the buddy. The buddy will help him provide the keywords, or he will tell him to organize the information on the graphic organizer. See, why here we are focusing on this graphic organizer is, in the exam, especially for children who have severe writing difficulties, writing lines and sentences and paragraphs becomes very difficult for them. So what we tell them is, if you are able to draw this graphic organizer, if the question says, explain the, how is food organized or how is the food classified based on the functions of the food items. So then the child can just draw this graphic organizer and leave it. Even if he's unable to write any sentences about it, he will definitely be given half the marks which are allotted for the question in the exam. Okay, similarly, now we go to the second classification. In the second classification, the food is classified into food groups based on the nutrients they provide. So there are 5 food categories here, so which is cereals, pulses, fruits and vegetables, milk, egg and meat products, and fats and sugars. So we provide pictures which are representing the sources, clear sources as possible. And as you can see, most of the pictures that we have used here are from Google. So we have our Google Master who's helping us, so you don't have to go running for pictures, images. You get umpteen number of relevant and suitable pictures that you can use for your lesson adaptation. And if you notice, there is a box item in the slide, which is put there deliberately to bring to attention certain point that the child, we feel, has to remember. Now here, what we do is, in addition to adapting the lesson based on what Janki ma'am said, like, all the basic information, and then we go to the additional information and then the extended information. So in addition to that, what we do is, since we are supporting students to clear 10th standard exams, we go through the question papers of the past 8 to 10 years, list down the frequently asked questions, and we bring in that when we are introducing the concept or when we are teaching the lesson to them, so that the child has sufficient reinforcements done and he is ready to look at the question and understand that this is what he's supposed to answer. And many of these questions, they will be asked in various ways. They could be asked as a multiple choice question. They could be asked as a, true or false, or it could be asked as a 2 marker, as a 4 marker. So we also kind of introduce the child to various paraphrasing of questions, but we tell them that this is what you need to answer, even if the same concept is asked in various ways. So here I would like to bring to attention the child's attention to the point that we have to avoid eating food products made of maida, and also we need to avoid eating polished rice, mainly because the reason for that is vitamin B complex is lost while refining. Okay, so similarly, I go on for the rest of the food categories, the pulses, milk and meat products. Again, the information highlighting point here is that we can include paneer and cheese in our diet because they are rich in proteins. And of course, this slide required, this information definitely requires a special mention here, because there have been frequent questions that has been asked based on the nutritious value of egg. And as I told you, this point has been asked in various different ways. So we bring in this point to the child and we say that egg is a magic food because it is rich in all the nutrients except vitamin C. So this information, and we say that this is more suitable for pregnant women, growing children, lactating mothers, and they must include eggs in their regular diet. Okay. Similarly, I do for vitamins, for fruits and vegetables. And here again, I'm bringing into attention some important points from the examination point of view. Why should we eat green leafy vegetables, or what do green leafy vegetables offer? And also root vegetables, the concept of eating root vegetables and the nutrients that they provide. And then the other category of fats and sugars. So other than the sources of fats and sugars, there is also a mention about why we should not eat excess sugar. So I'm bringing that point into the attention, and the icon that I have used is a caution icon, so that the child understands and remembers that excess sugar gets stored in our body as fat that makes us obese. In the lesson, they have used the word cholesterol. So if the child is comfortable using the word and he's able to understand and read and spell the word, you can definitely use cholesterol, but fat is a simpler way of saying the same thing. Okay, now the Josh of Jaggery is something that has appeared in the question papers very frequently. So this is, I thought that I need to put in this, you know, when I'm teaching about fats and sugars. So I put this sheet. These are all laminated sheets that we use. So I've just made, you know, slides out of these. Okay, once the child has learned about the various categorizations, 1 minute, I'm able to see some hands that are risen, but I would like to say that please hold on till the end of the session. We will have a separate question and answer session, and then myself and Janki will take the questions later. Thank you. Yeah. So once we finish the classification, once a child is comfortable with the two types of classification, we give an activity to the student wherein we prepare slips containing names of food items and also two boxes or maybe two sections that has a green tick and a red cross. And the child has to pick up a food item, explain the components, ingredients of the food item and say whether what are the nutrients present in that and whether it can be categorized as a healthy food or an unhealthy food. If it is a healthy food, how healthy it is, or if it is an unhealthy food, how unhealthy it is. So the child is expected to talk about these things. Okay. Once the classification of food is done, in the lesson explains about a concept called as food exchange. So basically a food exchange is exchanging one food item with another that has the same level of nutrients and the nutritive value, so that the person who's eating is getting a new experience. At the same time, he's also getting all the nutrients required. So this slide I use, which is, I think it's very apt and pictorially very clearly explains the concept of exchange, and the food that I have put here as an example for exchange is also represented there. Okay, followed by teaching the concept of food exchange, I do an activity wherein I take two boxes that has pictures of various yummy foods. So the student has to come, pick a chit or pick a picture from box A and pick another picture from box B and identify both the food items, talk about the food items and tell why he is choosing to exchange these two for his or maybe, you know, one of his family members' diet. Okay, so this is an activity I do. Okay, so once the concept of food exchange is internalized, now we get into the concept of pyramid, food pyramid. Okay, and I have taken the side headings from the chapters only. And of course, again, as I have told, all these images have been taken from Google. But then in addition to these, I ensure that the child is given ample activity so that the concept of food pyramid is internalized. So first of all, we establish the purpose of taking this pyramidal shape to explain the balanced diet or food groups here. So the structure of pyramid clearly indicates that the base of the pyramid represents the food items that can be consumed in large quantities. And as we go higher in the pyramid, the quantities get decreased accordingly, proportionately. And the top part of the pyramid or the tip of the pyramid represents the food item that needs to be consumed sparingly. Okay, so this concept has to be ingrained into the minds of the students. And as I told you, followed by this, I do an activity wherein the child has to cut out strips of paper and place it on a pyramidal or a triangular frame. Okay, and he also labels the various portions of the food pyramid. So this is what I do with the students. And again here, the keywords or the words that the child is using, he is quite comfortable, and I ensure that he has already been exposed and given enough sufficient opportunities to practice them. Okay, so once the child is labeling the part of the food pyramid, we give the students a group of food items where he has to map them and keep them in the relevant category. Now the same activity which was done individually is extended and it is made as a group activity to ensure that the child is getting complete reinforcement. Here again, every group is asked to make a food pyramid, label, and also as a group activity, they are given different set of food items and they are asked to place it in the relevant categories. Now, once the food pyramid concept is done, we bring in the concept of balanced diet. So it is very essential for the students to understand that the plate, the food plate that is represented here is nothing but a modified representation, which is presented here is a modified representation of the food pyramid that we have seen earlier. So to explain all that, I think somebody needs Please mute yourself.
Yeah.
I'm getting some feedback here.
Yeah, there is some people who are not- Please mute. Deepa Bhatt, please mute.
Indu, can you mute her? I think you can mute the participants, no?
Yes, ma'am, I'll do that.
Yeah, thank you. Can I continue?
Yeah.
Okay. So the foot plate which is presented here is nothing but a modified representation of the foot pyramid. So we explain this by showing them the various colored partitions which are there in the foot plate. And again, this concept is reinforced where the child himself makes the pie chart or the foot plate here. So we give him dotted lines to indicate the partition. So he will mark the portions and also color them differently. And we do this activity in this way. Once they have done this, they also bring in some paper plates and images of food items from home, and they also bring in some color sheets where once the pie chart is colored, they place the color sheets on that to reinforce the concept of the proportions, which food category can be consumed in larger quantities, which can be consumed in smaller quantities. For example, if you can see in this image, cereals and fruits and vegetables have a larger portion in the circle. Okay. As an extension of this activity, we do a group activity wherein they start with a similar one. They get a foot plate or a A4 sheet and make the circle, make the portions, keep the colored paper portions on that and also label them. And in addition to that, we also give them a set of food items which they have to keep on the foot plate to prepare a meal. So each group comes up with actually a plate meal, and the food items given to them are different. So it is very interesting. We get a buffet of food items when we are doing this activity, and it's so wonderful to see how they interact, and they're so curious to know what the other group has done and what is the variety that they are showing. Okay. Now the chapter gets into the concept of meal planning. Okay, I would like to bring one point for your kind attention here. Though we have been saying that graphic organizer is a very important part of lesson adaptation, we have seen that some students who have severe visual perception difficulties find it very anxious and overwhelming to allocate or understand and traverse through the information given in a graphic organizer and learn and understand. So in those cases, for those students, what I do is I just make a condensed or a summarized version of the lesson as bullet points. So I just put in the information as simple bullet points and make the student read and understand the concept, and we have a discussion. Of course, the activities are always there to reinforce the concept. Okay, so once the concept of meal planning is understood, I do this activity with my student wherein I give them pictures of various persons when having various occupations at various age groups and all that. And I tell them each group will pick up one picture and talk about what the picture is representing. For example, if the picture that the group A has taken is a farmer, so the group will say this is a farmer, and what does the farmer do? The farmer tills the land and he does hard work in his agricultural land throughout the day, and then they have to come out with diet recommendations for this person. So they will say which is the food item which is more suitable for him and which are the food items which are not preferable for this person. For example, if a group has taken a sick person or the sick woman's picture which is kept there, so they have to tell, or they will be supported or encouraged to tell that this person has to take very simple, easily digestible food, simple maybe saru anna and a very simple rice kanji and all that, but they have to avoid fried or high protein diet. Okay, so this activity, the objective of this activity is to make the students aware that as humans, as diverse as we are all as individual humans, our nutritional needs are also diverse. So the food that a small child consumes is not the same as an adult consumes. The food that a pregnant woman consumes is different from a food that a policeman consumes. So to drive in this point of diversity and of meal planning and how are these essential for meal planning, this activity I do with my students. And once these are established, this graphic organizer becomes a piece of cake for them. And of course, they have already seen these words as flashcards. So they just, pata pata, they just give me the words, like factors affecting the meal planning. And we have a wonderful discussion in the class, and they are all wonderfully coming up with their own diet plans for each person there. Okay, once we have done the factors, I come back to another activity. The lesson actually ends. This is the last part of the lesson. In the lesson, there is an activity wherein the student is asked to make a meal plan for a family, for a week actually. But since we feel that that's a little tougher, we build up to it. Eventually, we want the students to do that. But as a precursor to that, what we do is we give them images of various types of families. As you can see, some samples I have put here. A simple family where there are senior citizens, a nuclear family with young children, a nuclear family with working parents and adolescent children, and a small family with a pregnant mother and a small child. So we give them pictures of variety of families, and we ask them to list out that what do they understand, explain each family member and their physiological requirements, and also come up with a meal for a particular day, one day, that is breakfast, lunch and dinner. And at the end of the activity, of course, we end up with a discussion so that they are enriched with so many options which are available for many of us. Okay, and I hope you have noticed that in my lesson adaptation, I started off with very, very factual and literal information. So we build up on the comprehension levels of the student. So we always start with factual and literal comprehension, and then improve the comprehension levels to a reasoning or an inferential level. We feel that many of our students have difficulty in inferential comprehension, in which there are a lot of reasonings to be done. So this kind of approach, where we take them from factual to inferential, helps the students understand improves their inferring abilities, and then they also are able to give reasons for the questions which we ask them. So in this activity, I make question cards for each group, again a group activity. So each group gets a question card, and the group has to discuss the question card given to them and come up with reasons or why not. Okay, and we have a classroom discussion. Okay, and this lesson adaptation also includes a few project works. So this is one of the classroom project works that we usually do for this chapter. So in this, I divide the class into two groups. One group is labeled, given the topic of junk food. The other group is given the topic of traditional food. So each group has to decide on 5 food items that fall under the category they have been given. And they're supposed to draw the food items that they have prepared, that they have listed, and also they are supposed to role play. So when I'm saying role play, for example, if a student from junk food group comes and he has drawn French fries, so he's holding up the sheet like this and he says, "Hello friends, my name is French fries. I am one of the most popular dishes that is served at McDonald's. So I am made from potato, and I am cut into small, long pieces, and I'm processed and kept frozen until customers ask for me, and I'm fried in hot oil, and they sprinkle salt on me, and I'm served to the customers. And I'm one of the most popular and sought after food for college students and youngsters. And I offer the nutrients of carbohydrates and fats." So this is how each student is supported. So for each group, of course, the teacher's support and the group support is always there. So as the student comes and talks about each food like this, and now the students are exposed to what are the pros and cons of traditional junk food. See, usually nowadays it is, very uncool or, unhep for many of them to eat home cooked food or, traditional food items. They always prefer to walk into KFC outlets or a Taco Bell outlets and order a junk food and eat. But if we sit in front of them and keep talking to them, they may not listen. But this activity I have seen this, the impact of this activity on them, wherein they themselves are able to realize that what is healthy food, and actually eating home cooked or healthy food is not that uncool, and it is actually the most fashionable ones that will keep you healthy and active. Okay, so after this activity, we have a group discussion where we discuss the pros and cons of each group. And finally, we have an objective, we finally have a summarizing of the group activity where we say that, okay, we're supposed to have healthy home cooked foods frequently and maybe not stop eating the junk food, but definitely have them in moderation. Okay, so now I think with that activity, I have covered the entire circle of, teaching them. Actually, as Janki told, the evaluation per se is usually not done in the regular paper pen method. I usually don't give them a worksheet for evaluation. See, these activities or these group things that they do will give me a good idea about whether the child has understood the concept or not. So I use many of these activities for my evaluation and assessment to understand, okay, if the child has not understood, I sit with him and go back and refresh his knowledge so that he is brought on par with the class. Okay, so now I'm going to present the summarized or the shortened version. This is the printed adapted lesson for the food group, the 20-25 pages of printed text that I showed you. So that has been reduced to this. And if you notice, the content on this printed adapted text is exactly same to the content that I had put in the laminated sheets. So the child is exposed to the same number of words again and again. So at the end of the lesson, once I say the lesson is finished, my child is able to take up this adapted text and is able to comfortably read through the adapted text and understand the concepts. So the same classification of food is given here. Okay. Okay. Now, once this is done, I would like to show you some sample worksheets. So I will stop sharing this and share another file. Just a moment.
Yeah, and there's just, yeah, we have got it now. Yes, Jayanti, you can.
Yeah, okay. So as you can see, lesson adaptation and this entire process is quite comprehensive and it is very elaborate process. So ideally what we say is, if you are planning to prepare your child for NIOS 10th standard exams, please start a year or two before. So in Vrindavan, we usually start preparing the children for NIOS exams from the pre-NIOS, that is the precursor for the junior NIOS, wherein they register. So 1 year even before they register for NIOS, we start we pick up some chapters from home science, some chapters from data entry operations, and some chapters from English. And we do a lot of the skill development program so that when he goes into the junior NIOS, the child is comfortable and ready for the rest of the portions that can be covered. So here, these are some of the worksheets or the written activities or reading activities that I provide for the students. And these activities are done in the class with me and then only given as homework wherever required, wherever possible. Some students who are first generation learners find it difficult to do homework at home, at their place. So we do the reinforcement at school itself. Yeah. 1 minute. I don't know why it's not scrolling down. Yeah. So there are some small passages for reading is also introduced. So these are the worksheet activity that I give. So they are very factual. And if you notice, I leave it on the screen for a couple of seconds so that you can read through that. I am also providing a help box in the question number 2, where the child is asked to classify the food items into different food groups as given in the table. The child with severe spelling difficulties, in the absence of this help box, will find it very stressful to do this work. So with the help box, the child has understood the concept, but because of spelling difficulties, he is unable to recall the spelling and he is unable to write. But now with the simple support that is provided, the child can confidently fill the box and he will be able to do it happily. Okay, so we do a lot of objective type questions, a lot of closed procedure, fill in the blanks, and wherever possible, we give the help box. Okay, even in the question and answer, if you can see, we are giving the keywords for the student to be able to connect with the information and frame the sentences and write. Okay, and we go from short answers, one phrase answer, one sentence answer to two sentence answer, and we slowly build up to long answer questions. And after that only we come to the reasoning part, which is a higher order comprehension level. And as I told you, the application based questions are stored for the last. Only when the child is ready with the factual, the inferential, we go to this level. And in this question, as you can see, the student is asked to prepare a meal, a breakfast plan for a week. Okay, so by the time the student has internalized the basic concepts, he is comfortable to approach this question and answer this. And we also have some project works. In addition to the classroom project that I discussed, I give project works to students wherein they have to, they are given a scenario. Group of 5 friends visit a Suksagar outlet and each one orders one dish, which is the most popular dish, and they have to compare and come up with a list of nutrients and the nutritive value. When I'm talking about nutritive value, I am not getting into the calories or the mathematical factors of part of it. I'm only talking about the nutritive value with respect to the nutrients present in the food items. Okay. And also the next project that I usually give is where they have to connect with their family members, elders in the family, and bring out and tell about some 1 or 2 traditional food items which was made by their aunts, uncles, grandfather, grandmother, and talk about it in front of the class. Okay. So I think with this, we have completed one full circle of learning for the lesson food groups. So now I think we are open to taking questions. Janaki, would like to add something to this?
I think, yeah, the only thing is, yes, like Jayanti did mention that you could start, the preparation from the pre-NIOS level. So when you see the slides in the beginning, it is more for children of a lower age group, but we have slowly advanced to the higher age group. So you really have to not look at the age, you have to look at the skill at which the child is, at the functioning level at which the child is, and begin from there. I think we are ready for the questions now, Jayanti, if there are any.
Yes, yeah. Please unmute yourself, and if possible, we would like to see your faces when you're asking questions. Okay, there is a question on the chat window. It says, my son switched from CBSE to NIOS in grade 9, but I can't find good worksheets like you had shown. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so this is Ritesh, that's my question. So when he goes to a normal school, CBSE has a lot of ready-made worksheets that you can buy from different publishers. But NIOS, even if I buy those worksheets, they give the answers to just the in-text and the terminal questions, and there's no grading like you have given. Simpler questions first, the multiple choices first, and then 2 marks. So what happens now is, like for my son, even if a question is of 5 marks, he treats the same way as it is 2 marks or it is 1 mark or something like that. So that gradient is not getting built.
Janki, would like to answer that?
Yeah. You mean Mr. Rohitesh? Am I talking to Mr. Rohitesh?
Yes, yes.
You mean to say that he's able to answer, did I get you right, that he's able to answer only the 2 markers, he's not able to advance to
No, he knows the 5 markers, but he doesn't, so he's autistic.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about, 5 markers should have more, content, right?
Yeah.
So, and the way to build more content is you build small and then you describe it.
Yes.
So that path is not there in the worksheets. I mean, the one that we have in,
yeah, but see, sometimes you have to really customize for our children. Like, we give the number of lines, and we put the limit there. We write the question and we write the number of lines and we give them a visual idea. That is the length. And we teach them, like, how many words are there on a line. In your handwriting, how many words there are on that line. So you should write for a 5 marker this many lines. And we put a line underneath. So there is a visual feel as to how much he should write. Maybe you should tweak some of that for him.
No, what I have explained to him is, if it's a 1 mark question, write 2 lines. If it's a 2 mark question, write 3 lines. Yes. The 3 mark question, write 4 lines. No, but then, ma'am, if I am used to doing 2-line questions and you suddenly tell me, for this question, write 5 lines. Now there has to a gradual build up over, okay, this is my, like you said, this is the core concept, this is a sentence which captures the core concept. And after that, you have to elaborate on that.
Hmm.
Right.
Can I add a little to what Janki said?
Yeah.
Mr. Rohitesh, usually if you notice, these 2-mark questions, there will be some nomenclature, like there will be some words like define, list, name. And usually for these long answer questions, you will have explain, words like explain, describe, enumerate. So maybe you can train your son to look out for these words. So when he's seeing these words, which means he has to write a long answer. I mean, in addition to whatever Janki ma'am said, of course, that's something
I
that you
think
can
I'm
put.
not able to get my question across. It's not that he doesn't know that he has to write 5-6 line answer for a 5 line for a 5 marks question. It is how to build that skill. It takes time to build that skill. Once first you build a skill of writing 2-line answers, then you build a skill of writing 3-line answers, 4-line answers, 5-line answers. You don't suddenly say write 5-line answers. That skill is not there. So the kind of worksheet that you showed, they began with one mark, 2 mark, 1 mark, 2 marks. So once you have mastered the 1 mark, 2 mark, 3 marks questions, and then then I can ask him to elaborate. So you got the core concept, you got the subject idea, you got the topic. Now we have to elaborate on it.
Yes. Yes.
So like in CBSE, I can go to Amazon and buy too many worksheets, and he can, there'll be one worksheet with only 1 mark questions, objective or multiple choice questions. There'll be one worksheet with fill in the blanks kind of questions, or one worksheet true and false kind of questions. So once he has got all that, then it's easier for me to say, okay, now write a bigger answer. For NIOS, I don't find that. The in-text questions and the terminal questions, they're not that comprehensive. They don't cover the chapter fully. So
Yeah,
if
I think
you,
Embrace is working towards that. I think if VG might add there, I think they're planning to create a database of whatever your requirements are actually.
Embrace is, that's why they wanted this webinar itself.
Yeah.
yeah, that's why I joined. I can help you do that. So right now I'm preparing my notes for my son. Right, all of it is I'm preparing on my own.
Yes, that's exactly what we do also in Brindavan, that we, for every lesson in NIOS, we have our own notes, and that's how they even clear the exam.
Right.
Yeah,
But
we have been
the
around since
trouble also is that I also work.
Yeah.
So to create the notes to teach him and then create an exercise booklet, I have to leave my job and do this full time. I can't do that. So if you are aware of any resource, you can, like I said,
I'm sure Vijay will reach out to you regarding that.
yeah.
Sir
I
Rohitesh,
can share my notes with you if you find them useful. You can also use them. For every chapter, we do have.
can I talk?
Sure.
Okay, see, that is the purpose of this project that we are doing. As parents, as special educators, we are working with individual children, but it will be really of great help if we can combine everything, individual effort into a community effort and share with each other. And that is the purpose of this project. And we have called our, actually the speakers are experienced people, and that's why they are able to give us the guideline. So we will start with the project. That is what I had in thank note also. So thank you, Janaki ma'am and Jayanti ma'am, for your detailed guidance on this lesson notation, and also a lot of knowledge and input to us. Thank you so much. Meanwhile, I really thank all the volunteers who has come up for this project, and all of us are associated with children having special needs in some or the other way, maybe a parent or maybe now the project, how we are planning to go ahead. With the input what we have got today, we will be starting the project by assigning 2 lessons per volunteer for each subject. So if I'm the volunteer, I'll be doing 2 lessons in English, 2 lessons in home science. So that is how I'll be going for all the 5 subjects. We'll be sharing the Excel sheet with you, and we will be coming up with a lot of webinars till we feel we are able to start with the projects, right? And we are all, as a community, all our intention is to get it together and contribute to the children in the best possible way. So thanks, Mr. Ragitesh, to come up and share your thing as a parent, and hope we will contribute it back to the society also. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. Janaki, ma'am.
Yeah. So
Yeah, thank you, Janaki, ma'am. Thank you, Jayanti, ma'am. Thank you so much. And thank you, participants. Let's
Thank you.
keep it
It was
going.
very interesting and immense pleasure meeting you all. Yeah.
Can we leave now? Is there any more questions, or can we leave?
Hope we will again meet you soon for some webinar. That time we will have a lot of questions, I hope.
So, will the presentation be shared? Because I would like to do that KWL. I found it to be pretty useful. So,
Yeah.
but I don't remember all the tools that you use. So, if you can share the presentation, it would be nice.
Yeah, we will share a
Vijay, I think we will coordinate with Vijay and see how best we can help you.
Sure.
One quick question from Jayanti ma'am. Ma'am, you
Yeah.
just showed the home science lesson.
Hmm.
So it seems that some subjects you are already ready with. So is it like some subject you are already and some subject you are not? That's why this project is?
No, which project you're talking about? Can you
Project, because I saw that home science lesson adaptation you are already doing.
No, see, there are many teachers who are working on multiple. Vijay, you're taking that?
Yes, Jayanti, ma'am. Yeah, Renu, actually, they are from Brindavan Education Trust, and they are helping us to learn.
Okay, I understood. So this is whatever we have seen today, that was on the Vrindavan.
Yes.
Right? So you are making in Vrindavan.
Yes.
But now we need to standardize as it is available to all. That is the Embrace project. Right?
Yes,
Yes.
that is what we are. Yes. Yes.
And the reason why we chose the subject of food was, everybody can relate, and many of us have the background information about that. Many of us are aware of the words nutrients, carbohydrates. So when I'm going through the process of lesson adaptation, you will be able to focus more on the process rather than the content. I mean, the keywords and all that. So that's the reason both of us chose this lesson.
And see, each child chooses a different combination of subjects when they come to Brindavan. And for every child, it's an individualized education program. It's just not one size fits all. And we do this kind of adaptation for every subject. Every subject, like she said, there is this kit of adapted lessons according to the subjects the child has chosen. And it comes with all the modalities. It is hard work, but as you gain more, we have been in this since 1993, and we are national award winners for teaching children with dyslexia. So we have kind of gotten used to this idea of doing this well. And I'm sure, many of you are very, very talented. I'm sure you will be able to contribute to the common cause also.
Thank you.
Ma'am, our intention is also to create such kit which can be made available to all the parents who is literally actually will be of great help if we can learn from you. At least 50% if we can make it out of what you are doing will be of great help is what we feel.
So thank you all. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure meeting you all. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, Embrace. Thank you.